Ron Darling chatting with us now live on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Ron?
I'm doing great. A long time between speaking here, Rich. What was that word in the business you used, that a guy who does analyzes and does play-by-play? What is that called?
Hyphenate. You're a hyphenate, Ron.
A hyphenate. I think I'm more like a model/actress.
Yes.
Not very good at either.
Well, you know. Yeah. Did you enjoy doing play-by-play, Ron? You enjoyed taking that on?
I really did. You know, Rich, where it came from is that we lost the talented Kevin Burkhardt to you guys. Not you guys, people at Fox.
Sure, the National Football League.
And he was so good. And, you know, if there's I just said to Kirk Gowdy, my boss, I said, listen, you know, if Gary gets hurt, Gary Cohen, who's our play-by-play guy, or he has to go home for an emergency or whatever, I don't want to be thrown into that seat without any experience. So I wanted a little bit. I got it in spring training. I did 7 games. You know, there's 1,000 things you have to do well as a play-by-play person. I'm on about 17. When I get to about 5:41, I'll call you back and say I'm a decent play-by-play guy.
Okay, Ron, you do that. And you are a hyphenate. Don't deny it. You're well, I guess we could in your world a utility, you know, but the utility player has a bad connotation to it, doesn't it? Though you don't want to be known as a utility player, do you, Ron?
Yeah, it's a jack of all trades, master of none kind of nomer. So I'd rather not be that. But you know what? You know, in our business is anything. And as you get older, although we're not supposed to get older, as you get older, versatility has its place.
That's right. Well, so let's just call you a two-tool player and leave it at that, Ron.
There we go.
Ron Darling joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, Ron, would you use the word epidemic to describe what's happening with Tommy John and some of the young arms in the league right now? Is that too strong a word?
Yeah, epidemic. Epidemic is the best word you could use, Rich. It's just so rampant in the game. I've got a few feelings on why that is.
Go for it.
Well, I think that, you know, in my day, there are probably guys who pitched through Tommy John or through bad ulnar collateral ligaments. And one reason and one reason only is that the only way to make money 30, 40 years ago is that you had to take the mound 35 times. It didn't really matter how you felt. I think that's why when we see guys go down with Tommy John, we see them the day before they get the announcement they've thrown 95 in a game. And you're saying, wait a minute, how can a guy throw 95 but have a broken ulnar collateral ligament? Well, guys in my day used to have to pitch through it, which didn't make a macho man. In fact, it makes us pretty stupid when I think about it now. But that was the only way to really make a living, is you had to be out on the mound. Now, when it's seen, and I think the ability of doctors to diagnose the injury now is better than it's ever been, guys go under the knife because they feel 90 to 95% they're going to come back. You know, the only issue with that is that some don't, or some go for a second one. And, you know, for all the great success stories we're going to hear with Tommy John, we probably won't hear a lot about the guys who never pitch again.
But, Ron, does it start at the youth level? Does it start with making sure that these kids, I hear so many theories, certainly sitting in this chair on this show with people calling in, I hear that the kids are babied too much, or that the kids aren't babied too much and are allowed to throw too many curveballs. I hear it's not a curveball injury. It's more of a guy who throws too much heat, that you take a look at the guys who are going down for this and they're not known for their off-speed junk. You don't see the junk ballers or the crafty pitchers, as those people are usually referred to as, having this. So where do you fall on this subject?
Well, I fall on this subject. Just think if you or I, Rich, and we could throw the ball hard, and you're 15 years old and you have some lunatic, hopefully it's not your dad, but some lunatic in the stands with a gun on you, and you know that at 15 years old, if I can throw 85, at 16 I can throw 87, at 17 I can throw over 90, I'm going to be offered a big league contract from someone for a lot of money. So as opposed to learning how to pitch, guys are learning how to throw as hard as they can. We've got a lot of medicine on how to medically make our shoulders stronger to protect that rotator cuff, which was such a big injury in my day. And now the overbuilding of the shoulder muscles, the back, the front of the shoulder is so good. And it's really good at protecting the shoulder. Very rarely do you hear about a rotator cuff injury anymore. That's great. problem with the ulnar collateral ligament. It's in your elbow. So you can make your forearm, your wrist, your hands, your bicep, triceps stronger. But the issue is that ligament is never going to be any bigger. You're not going to make it stronger, and you're not going to be able to protect it. So at some point when maybe I was a kid and I used to go watch guys like Ferguson Jenkins or Robin Roberts or other people like that throw, it was more at an 80, 85%. And if a guy got on third base with less than 2 outs in the seventh inning, you'd see those guys now throw as hard as they could to try to get through the inning. But now it's 2 hours of hellacious throwing. These kids come into a game and they are going to throw everything as hard as they can, including fastballs, sliders, and breaking pitches. And the torque that you put on that ligament just cannot take it. And it never will take it. So it's something that's not going to get better unless guys learn how to say to themselves, this is kind of a marathon of pitching, not throwing. And I have I don't know, if you just can picture a big basket behind the mound, fill up that basket with as many outs as you can, but not at the frenetic pace that they do it now, because if it continues this way, it won't change. In fact, it'll get worse.
Ron Darling, SNY analyst, joining me here, and play-by-play, pardon me, joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, I'm going to put my New York hat on now, Ron.
Okay.
The New York Post with a back page of Joe Girardi peeking over the top of Yankee Stadium at a photograph, a rendition of David Wright, Matt Harvey, and the headline is essentially, it's our turn, it's our town, that it's the Mets' town right now. Do you think that is setting up for a big fall, or you think that is legitimate hype for the Mets entering 2015 in New York?
Isn't it shocking, Rich? Hyperbole in New York. Very hard to believe.
I know. Tell me it is so.
I think that there's still a lot of National League fans in New York. I certainly was lucky enough to play for a team that was very popular in New York. But the Yankees are the Yankees. I mean, come on. With all the World Series and all the great things they've done, I think what the Mets have for the first time in a while, and is that they have a team that can contend, and that hasn't been since 2006. But even more importantly, and I hate to put so much on him, but God, he seems to love it, is Harvey is just like a supernova, man. He's nothing like him. I mean, I think someone's got to do an interview with Harvey and Joe Namath at some point, because he has that kind of aura about him. When you're around him, and I'm talking about me, I'm a 55-year-old man, and he's 25, whatever he is, you can feel it. It's palpable. He just has such a belief system in himself. You combine that with the most excellent of athletic skill, and you combine that with a time when he's going to be pitching for a team that has an opportunity and has some talent to make it happen. All of those three things put together, I think and it's more, I think, Mets fans just starving for a winner, and they're so excited. And I just got back home from Florida last night. Every place I go, people are just I haven't seen this many Mets fans with smiles in a long, long time, and nothing's even happened yet. But it's good coming into any baseball season when you feel like that.
Well, it's your 10th year on SNY covering the Mets with Keith Hernandez, Gary Cohn, as you mentioned. Yesterday was the 30th anniversary of the Sid Finch, George Plimpton prank, and you were part of that, right, Ron? You were incorporated in that Sid Finch prank.
Well, I was lucky that I knew George Plimpton away from the field and got to be very friendly with him. I didn't always understand what he said because he was so well spoken, big words all around. But when he had the idea, I just thought it was so great. And I remember that we had a backup catcher, Ron Reynolds, that they cut out the middle of his glove and charred it so it looked like the ball had gone through his mitt. And Sid being at the old Huggins Stengel Field in St. Petersburg, where the old Yankees of Ruth and Gehrig used to play, in the bullpen mound, doing what he did with the one shoe off routine, and I mean, certainly behind Orson Welles, but one of the great April Fool's pranks of all time.
How much grief did you get from Mets fans that you were part of it? Ron?
Oh, I did get grief at the time. I think in retrospect now, Mets fans are pretty happy that it happened to their ball club, and
Right.
and for 30 years later, for people to still be talking about it, I know that ESPN did a bit on it.
Yeah,
so
great 30 for
I think
30.
it's just fun.
Ron, thanks for taking the time. Best to your lovely
Hey.
wife, okay?
Okay, anytime, Rich. Take care of yourself.
You bet. That's Ron Darling, SportsNet New York.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.